Hello and welcome back to this series on Unreal Engine 4, and today we're going to look at lighting inside the engine. I've got an outside scene and an inside scene that we can have a look at, which I pre-made a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to kind of go through the different types of light, kind of what they're used for. Also as well, we're going to look a little bit at post-processing and kind of setting up the scene as well. So we're going to have a look at light mass and why kind of light maps are important. And yeah, let's just transition that over. So hello. So this is the scene that I made. I made two scenes. I made one which has got kind of interior exterior lights, and then one which has kind of got one exterior section, and then the rest is interior, so you can kind of see the light fades. This project is using ray tracing. But I probably won't get into that because not every computer can support that at the moment, so it's very thingy. What I'll try and do is link some of the articles that I use to kind of help build this together, because there's some really useful articles on level 80, 80 level, 80 level? 80 level, level 80, I would call it level 80, and also some of the wiki stuff that's on the Unreal 4 page is really good as well, especially when it's explaining like what a light mass importance volume is, what light portals are, and that sort of stuff. So we'll get into it. It's a very simple scene, very simple geometry. I kind of took the texture from Substance Source, and I just built the models themselves. As you said, very simple shapes that I've put in together. And if I just play it, you can see it. So yeah, and I don't get deafened anymore. That's brilliant. So yeah. Cool. So just a very simple scene to kind of build this. And then the other scene was here. So if I'm hoping, yeah, my fans are on. Let's save selected. And then we can just quickly play from here. You can see, just demonstrating this kind of like, we've got the floor light in here, which is light by emissive, but also it's got some light in there as well. And then we've got the light source coming from the outside through this hole, and that kind of gives this kind of fade off thing here. So yeah. So first thing we're going to do is, I think the best thing would be to do is to kind of build the scene again, just so I can show you kind of how quick and easy it is to do. One thing I will say, if you are a Patreon supporter, and thank you very much if you are, you'll be able to have access to this on the Patreon. I think there is only a $5 and a $20 thing now. The $1's gone, I think, if I can remember rightly. I can't remember. But that, yeah, that will give you access if you're a $5 patron on there. We're still thinking about taking the $20 off because we want a value for money from you guys. So yeah. So I think we might actually take the $20 off, and I think I've already taken the $1 off anyway. So yeah, but yeah, let's get started. So I'm just going to go File, Open a new level. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go File, New Level. I'm just going to give the default. That's all I need at the moment. So, but in the default scene, there's a couple of really important lighting bits in. So firstly, we've got a light source. Now, what a light source is, or commonly also known as a directional light, is this represents the sun. So normally, there's only one of these in your scene. If you have multiple ones, you'll start to get performance issues. I know you definitely in Unity, you get that after optimizing sure footing last week. We had two directional lights in that. I don't know why I put those in, but anyway. So you tend to only find normally one directional light in a scene, and that's normally representative of the sun. We also have a skylight. Now, with the skylight, these are basically, what's the best way to describe them? They add an ambient color to the scene. So for this, there's two methods. There's SLS captured scene. So what that does is it takes all the information from these little reflection capture actors, which capture the scene in whole, and then pipe it to, say, your reflections in your materials or your lights and that sort of stuff. So you can either use an SLS, or you can actually use a cube map. So there's a really good website that I use, which is called HDRI Haven, do apologize. And that's really good, and it allows you to download really high quality HDRIs free. I think you can also support them as well. I think I've done in the past. So you can download these quite easy, and I think I've actually already got these in. There you go. So I could drag this in. Oh wait, no, what am I doing? Wrong thing. So I change this to specific cube map, and I can drag that in. And now when I rebuild the lighting, it will have all the kind of lighting information that you see in that thingy, and it will bring those colors into the scene. But you do need to rebake your lighting every time you use this, because it won't. So if I change this HDRI now, it won't change it in scene until I've rebaked the lighting. Let me just close that off. And then we've got a couple more lights. So we've got a point light. So what the point light does, very simple, it's a point light. This is very good for light bulbs and that sort of stuff. And you can change everything on this. Any of these lights you can change. So I can change like the intensity, the angle, whether it affects the world. So I can turn that off, the main light, if I wanted to. You can see here it's gone very dark. Let me just turn that back on. I can also change the temperature of it. So say I wanted it 4,000. It's a lot more orange. If I wanted it 8,000, a lot more blue. So yeah, just like you would on a camera. And then also as well with this, you can change the color, so we can have a little bit of a disco. You can actually program that to change colors. Attention radius, that's how far it is. You can see the fall off. That's how far the fall off is away. Sometimes if you have overlapping, it sometimes gives an error. Probably not going to. Probably because I need to rebake these anyway. Because yeah. So, but sometimes if you've got errors, if it's got an X in the light icon, it means that the attention radiuses are overlapping with each other and it's causing performance issues. So either move them slightly away from each other, or kind of delete, maybe get rid of one, or turn it so it doesn't cast shadow. Sorry, I've got a really itchy nose. But anyway, so yeah, so just be careful with that. We got a spotlight as well. Let me just turn that so we can see this a little bit better. Actually, let me just go to the light source and turn that off. Okay. So you can see this a little bit better. So a spotlight, we can change the inner cone and the outer cone so it's wider or thinner. And then what that does is it kind of changes the fall off, basically. Now, one of the cool things with the lighting is, with these lights, is you can attach something called an Ies Profile. So this is something that the manufacturers make. It's a little file that you can drag and drop into here, and that will change the kind of profile of the spotlight. Let me try and find an Ies Profile. Just turn the fan on a little bit. So this is what an Ies Profile looks like. So you can actually plug in a file inside of Unreal, which kind of does this for you. Used to be links. Oh. But anyway, so yeah, if you just go onto it, then it will you'll be able to go and find the company website. But yeah, really good for that. But anyway, so like, yeah, you've got your fall off here. So inner cone, outer cone. Also as well, your attention radius. So for example, if this was higher up, yeah, your attention radius would be higher, basically. Yeah, so we got that. So I can get rid of both of these, and you can see at the moment it's giving me warnings, so I'll show you that in a minute. The other thing is this, which is a rectangle light. And it's exactly what you think. So we can change the height, and we can also change the width. And as you can see here, where's my spot? Let's just delete my spot a minute. You can see here that it's very good. These are very good for like the strip lighting that you see, and also the strip lighting on this project, which I showed you. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Next thing, lighting wise, so they're all the main lights that you get. They're all the lights basically that are inside of Unreal. So we've got directional, which is mainly the sun. We've got a point light, which you can use for a lot of different things. You can also turn the shadow, cast shadow off on them as well. So if there's any performance issues, you can turn that off. Especially for like candle light, so you could have a point light for a candle, but then you don't want that really necessarily casting shadow if there's a main light coming in. Yeah, so we can turn the shadow casting off whenever we want. So if I just quickly grab that, I can tell it not to cast any shadows, and it won't. Let me light source. That's all. We've got the spotlight. Like I said, it's a bit like a point light, but it's more focused, and it's just like a spot that you would find in the real world. A rect light, which is a rectangle light, which allows you to have that kind of like flat. It's good for tubes, basically. And then a skylight, which kind of gives you that ambient light, whether you could use the reflection capture actors or the specific cube maps. If you go on a shoot, you could use that cube map that you've made on the photo shoot or the filming that you've done. So at the moment, it's causing me issues, so I'm just going to build. I'm going to change my lighting quality to medium. I'm just going to keep it to medium. Now, the reason for this is because at the moment I don't need production. I tend to do a production light build at the end when I'm finished. But at the moment, medium's fine. We haven't changed any of the Lightmass settings, so that's quite quick. You see now we don't have any errors, and the lighting is baked because this is set to static. So what this means is that when we build the lighting, it's going to build a light map. If I go into the world settings, I think I can actually see the light maps. There we go. So here we go. Here's the light maps that have been built based off what's in the scene. So not a lot. But anyway, so what this does is it just, instead of having everything dynamically lit, things that aren't going to move, it's better to bake the lighting than it is to kind of keep it dynamic. It's going to save on performance and overheads. And I think I covered this in a previous one when we were doing light maps. But this is what it comes to. It comes to when you're building your light maps. Now, I did build that lighting and I didn't have a light mass importance volume. So one of the things that you can actually put in your scene is something called a light mass importance volume. So what this does is it tells the Lightmass editor that whatever's in this box is important and needs high quality. And it's the kind of the same principle as portals, which I'm going to show you in a bit on there. I'm actually going to let's just open up the other level a minute. And as you'll see, he says, I didn't put one in. Whoopsie. Anyway, let's grab that. Naughty. Anyway, so you can find the light mass importance volume here. You just drag it in and make sure it just covers the area, the whole level basically, and that's just going to help with the lighting when it's building. Yeah, so basically the light mass importance volume controls the area that light mass emits photons in, allowing you to concentrate it only on the area that needs detail. Because at the moment, if we build the lighting in here, it's building everything, whereas now it's only building where we need it to, basically. So put that in, because it's just going to help if your scene is very advanced and it's got lots of detail in the lighting. You're going to need that in just to focus where you want it building, basically. Okay, I did say I was going to rebuild this environment, but it's just take me too long. So I think the best thing to do is, as you can see here, and I do try and keep things in folders, I've popped in some rectangle light, because if I turn these off, you'll notice that, yeah, okay, I'm getting a nice cast here, but it's the fall off on it isn't very good. So I kind of put these rectangle lights in just to kind of give that extra fall off. And all these meshes are set to static. So they've all got light maps and they're all having their lighting information baked into the light maps. And if I show you the visualization of that, you'll notice that most of my meshes are green, which is good. I think if it's blue, then there's not enough resolution in the light map. And if it's red or orange, it means there's too much resolution. So you need to scale dependent on the thing. Now, you can actually do that by just clicking the details panel of, say, one of these meshes. And you can change it here. So, override line map. At the moment, it's set to 64. Actually, it's not set to 64. Generally, it's set to 512 in the content browser thing. So I'm going to set that to 512. And you'll notice that that's fine now. It's green. It's got enough resolution in there. It's going to be okay. One thing I did notice as well is I've got two materials. So I've got the blue and I've got the concrete. Now, oh, sorry. So I've got light, and this was just a simple material that I made, which allows me to create some emissive, put that as a whole number, and if I go back into lit, you'll see this emissive working. The reason why it's a material instance is because then I can change this on the fly if I really wanted to. I can play around with that anyway, and I could make a different color if I wanted more. Yeah, so a bit like what we did in the materials thing where we created a material instance. Okay, so you're thinking, what are these things here? What these things are, these are called light mass portals. Here, light mass portal. And what a light mass portal does, again, it's a bit like the light mass importance volume, where it's kind of telling the engine, the light mass builder, that this is an important area and this needs to have more quality. But what a light mass portal does in comparison to the input in the big volume is that it draws that quality into little areas. So, for example, like it basically kind of helps light mass and understand where there needs to be more quality in the lighting. So doorways, if there's a doorway going out into the outside world, you want a light mass portal there. If you've got windows, you want them in the windows. For this example, I've got them in the kind of gaps, because that's where the sun has been drawn into. So it's going to help with kind of like getting rid of those black lines, getting rid of those fuzziness. So they're really important to use. So definitely use them in your scene. And again, make sure they're organized because you might have quite a lot of them. So put them in their own folder like this. So that's kind of how I use Lightmass portals. It kind of draws that light into the certain areas and more quality through those areas. And you can see here from the nice crisp bakes basically. So the next thing I'm just going to cover is if we have a look at the light source. I didn't really change much on this. Maybe change the temperature a little bit. And like I said, I've been using some of the articles on level 80 to kind of get the lighting that I want in the scene. So definitely worth checking out those articles. Next thing that I tend to do after I've done kind of like got the basic lights in there and that sort of stuff is play around with the Lightmass settings. So we've got a few things here, and I'll put a link to the article that you referred to anyway. Now, actually, I didn't know this until I read this article actually. So non-indirect light bounces. So if I just make this slightly bigger, you'll notice, where is it? Here, non-indirect lighting bounce. Now mine's set to 100, but after reading this article, I think I'm going to change it. So what he's saying is like users tend to go crazy and bounce up to 100 times. This doesn't affect the build time much, fortunately. However, it does increase the end light quality much either. It doesn't increase. So what he says is about 3 to 5 bounces should be enough to kind of get a nice crisp bake. So let's give that a try and change that to 5. Let's still go top end, but not too expensive. Now, one of the other things that I always change is this. So this is the static lighting level scale. And this tends to, it's normally set to 1. But I tend to change it to like a 0.1 or a 0.2, normally a 0.1. And it just means when it's measuring out the, when it's calculating the lighting, it's, I always slip up on this bit. So it calculates every 0.1 Unreal unit, then every 1 Unreal. And I was always taught, and I think this is true. I was always taught that if this is set to 0.1, it would still need to add up to 1. So it's multiplied by 10 here, because you've got 10 multiplied 0.1 is 1. So if it was 0.5, it would be 2, so on, so on. And like I said, I'm going to link this article that I use all the time to kind of go back and make sure that I'm kind of doing things correctly in this stage, because it's a lot of information to take on board. But yeah, so let me just show you the example of this. So as you can see here, when it's set to 1, we don't get a lot of noise, but at the same time it just doesn't look, there's not enough detail there basically. We start to get more noise at 0.5, 0.2 we're getting a lot of noise, and then with this we've got quite a lot of noise. And that's when the indirect lighting quality comes into play, and that's why we times it by 10. Yeah, you can see here. So if the static lighting level times the indirect lighting quality is equal to 1, then you use this equation here. If I just show you that here, is that indirect lighting quality is set to 10, this is set to 0.1, so this is going to 10 times that, and then we get 1. Other than that, is there anything else I've changed? I change this sometimes. Yeah, we've got my light maps in there as well. Now, one of the cool things is with this now, the emissive just lights itself. So originally you would have to go into the mesh and say light by emissive, and then that would work. But it actually does it real. I don't know whether it does it real time, but it definitely does it baked, and you don't have to tick a button anymore, which is brilliant. So yeah, so I don't need to go into that. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn on game icons, which if I press G, that turns on the icons. Now, the next two things I want to go through is, if I remember rightly, let me find this. So I want to kind of add some atmospheric fog in there. So there's two types of fog. There is atmospheric, and then there's exponential height fog. I think I said that right. So the one that I've got in here is atmospheric and exponential. And if we look at the details, so the atmospheric fog, this is where it allows you to do, is this the one? Sorry. Atmospheric fog is kind of tied to the direct light source, and if I just disable it, all right, you notice that it affects the sky dome than anything else. It's the actual exponential height fog which gives you something called volumetric fog. And what this does is the light sources interact with the fog. Okay, so you probably won't see it in here because of how light it is. But say we had a very dark room and we had exponential height fog and we put a light source in there, it would actually work with the height fog and you would see the haze around that light, basically. But this is where you kind of set it up. So let's just, if I set that to 1, okay, that's too much. You can't see things. But if I was to put a light in there, can you see how that light is now interacting with that fog? Where's my fog? Okay, 0.5. Even 0.5 is way too much. So 0.0. I find that's about right. 0.00. Let's just change this to. And if I it's not going to do it. Anyway, let me try and sort this out a little bit more. There you can see it. You see how the light is kind of interacting with that fog. So, yeah. And let's get rid of that light. Don't need that. But anyway, so yeah, so there's two types of fogs. There's the exponential high fog and there's atmospheric fog. Atmospheric fog kind of works with the sun, the direct light, and the sky dome, whereas the exponential height fog kind of works in the whole scene. And you can actually do height levels on it as well. But the best thing about that is the, I forgot what it's called now, volumetric fog, because it just makes like light shafts look so much nicer and that sort of stuff. So yeah, so really kind of look at that and add that into your scene, but don't overdo it. You can really overdo that. Next thing I kind of wanted to show you was so we've got the light mass importance volume in there. We've gone through the kind of different types of lights. I've kind of built this. So we've kind of got some atmosphere in there. One of the things I would say is kind of get a mood board of what lighting scenarios you want to do, because that's going to really help. And have a look at some cinematic stuff, have a look at some articles, have a look at different films, games, how they kind of do it, and kind of piece together what you want. Get like a reference mood board of what you're trying to build, and it's all about that kind of reference on it. Okay, I will go through a little bit of the post-processing, but we should have enough time. I didn't do too much. Now, obviously with post-processing, you would have to actually put a post-processing volume in. Now, I've already put one in, which is this thing here. And if I come out of it, you can see the difference that it's doing. Okay, and you can put lots of different ones in. So say you were going from a cave, which is cold and dark, into the light, you could have a post-processing volume which is on the whole map, except for inside of that cave post-processing, and you can have a transition that transitions between the two. It's called blend, blend radius and blend weight, and that you could blend between 2 post-processing, 3 post-processing, 4, 5, 6, whatever you needed. But for this, I've only got one scene, so it's not too much of an issue. So yeah, so to find that, just type in post-processing, and again, just drag it into the scene. That's all you need to do. Obviously, cover what part of the area you need the post-processing in. So for example, this is covering this bit here, but I could make it smaller if I wanted to on there. And then really just go through. So we've got, so what have I got on? So at the moment I've got bloom. Now with bloom, you don't want to go too over the top with it. So you want to keep it like probably a 0.5 is quite good. Like if I put this to 2, or worse 10, yeah, it's starting to turn into a Michael Bay film. Sorry, referring to that, but yeah, you want to keep it subtle, and even that is probably a bit too much. 0.1, yeah, probably around about there is probably best. Threshold is, I always keep it to -1 anyway. So that's bloom. Exposure now. What I've done with exposure is I've turned it off, or I've kept it stable. So what auto exposure does is when you go from a light to a dark area and a dark area to a light area. So a dark area to a light area, your eyes adapt, don't they? Like you kind of blink a little bit. That's what auto exposure kind of does. Now, in theory, it's a nice idea. In practice, trying to light a scene with auto exposure on is a nightmare. Like, it's the most hardest thing you can do. So the best thing to do is cancel it out. So you can actually turn it off under show and go to post-processing, and you can turn that off if you wanted to. Or what I do is I kind of lower it so that there's no speed up and no speed down. So there's no black to white, white to black. And the brightness is set to the same thing, so 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and that kind of fixes it. Because it is nice to have. And also, you can kind of do that as well. Okay, chromatic aberration, again, a small amount is good. If you go 10, that's what it's going to look like, trippy. So just be careful with that. So I'm going to keep it quite slow. Okay, keep it subtle. Camera, I don't think there's anything. Dirt mask, nope. Lens flare. Have a little bit of lens flare. Probably a bit too much. A little bit of lens flare, not too much. Don't go Michael Bay and oh, what's the other guy? J.J. Abrams and Star Trek. Don't do that. It's not worth it. But yeah, so a little bit of lens flare, and I think that's it. Oh, we got a vignette. Just adds a little bit of darkness to the thingy. That's normally used on the camera. That's probably a better setting for the camera, and I'll go through that in another video when I talk about Unreal's sequencer. Grain intensity as well. Again, this could be a camera thing, but at the moment it's on post-processing. And all these kind of do. So for example, if I was to change you can notice the difference there. If I change the vignette, you can see get a more thing there. Anyway, so, and then color grading again. Have a look at some articles. Go on level 80. I'll put the links in the description below. But yeah, you can play around with this. Play around with saturations and full grey. It's the same with contrast as well. It's very subtle what I've done on these, and it's about playing around and having a look and kind of experimenting it. You can get color grading lookup tables. I don't think I've got it in this demo because it is a paid package, and I don't want to distribute that around because it's not fair on the developer of it. I wouldn't want that as a developer to be distributed around, so yeah, so I won't put it in this pack. But you can get some lookup tables from Unreal. There's a couple of good ones that I use. I think if I look, no, that's what games I've got. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, so I've got this Cinema Color Grading pack, and I've also got this Amplify LUT pack. Really good packs. Highly recommend them as well. So yeah, you can use that, and yeah, that's really kind of it. I am using ray tracing, but again, I'm not going to cover it in this because it's very much tick boxes. There's plenty of articles out there that tell you how to do it, but it is very much tick a box here, tick a box here, tick a box here, and then you have to kind of wait for your project to kind of reformat. So it does take a while. So if it is stuck, just leave it for a bit and it will work. But if I was to use just general stuff, I would use like an ambient occlusion here. But at the moment I'm using a ray trace one. But you can see here it kind of darkens up all these areas here, which kind of gives a bit more realism to it. Again, ambient cube map, you can do that as well. You could say add this in, change the intensity. Probably not the best thing, but yeah, I've lit stuff with that before. And it really is just going in and having a look and see what fit, like having a look and kind of getting that reference and kind of getting it as close to that reference as you can. So yeah. Now the only difference is with this one obviously has more outside light. So what you're probably wanting to do is actually kind of block out the light very early on. Once you've got a block out at your level, get your lighting in. Get a very base lighting in there so you can see what you're working on. So many people leave this till the last, and it shouldn't be. It should be in there as soon as possible. As soon as you've got meshes in there, get your lighting in there and see what it looks like, because you will keep changing it. Obviously, don't do the post-processing until you've finished. So block out the scene, get the first pass on lighting in there, start to texture, adjust the lighting, and then at the end, do the post-processing at the end. But yeah, a lot of people I see just kind of don't have any lighting in their scene straight away. Get it in there, let me see what you're working on, because you want to see how your textures are reacting to light. Like this works fine, because we've got light, dark, and there's not much. You have the eye adaptation, but there's not. The texture works for it basically. So yeah. And in this scene as well, we've got. Actually, I only put one big light because it's stretched across the whole floor. Now, you could put individual lights in there, but for the time's sake, I think I just put two strip lights, two react lights in there, rect lights. Again, very simple. My Skylight is using this cube map. We've got atmospheric fogs in there. We've got a light source in there. So this scene is very simple. Don't have as many rect lights in there, and there's the light source as well. So I think I'm gonna call it there for this session. Thank you for watching. In the next Unreal video, we're going to look at a sequencer. So we're going to create our own kind of like fly through with cameras and stuff like that, and look more into the kind of like the sequencer part of Unreal Engine. If you do like these videos, drop us a like. All that YouTube spiel. I hate doing it. It's a pain in the arse. But you have to, unfortunately. But yeah, if you do like the videos, do drop us a like. Drop us a comment. It's always nice to see some of the comments, like we've helped someone. I remember doing a video a few years ago where the student was, oh my god, I've been using this all semester to render out stuff. So yeah. Also, do check out our Patreon. You can get access to these files on there. And yeah, and I will just pop up the Patreon, because we've had 2 newish ones. So thank you very much, Sabine and Terence, for supporting the site. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.